Hello, welcome back to my channel if you're returning, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Rachel and I am a reseller on sites like eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari. Today I want to share with you some tips on how to reduce your stale inventory and still maximize your profits on that inventory. So if you're a reseller, you're looking to get rid of some stuff, you want to just donate it or trash it, hold on, before you do that, stick around. Some of these tips you may have heard before, but others might be surprising to you. So if you want to hear what I usually do to make some money on my stale items, definitely stick around. So there comes a point, if you're a reseller, that the item is no longer worth keeping around. If it hasn't sold and hasn't sold and hasn't sold, I personally think that whole like everything sells eventually is a fallacy. I mean, maybe, but there comes a point where it's not worth the amount of space it's taking up. And unless you have unlimited space to store things, unlimited time to share the items, etc., there is a point where you should probably just let it go and move on to inventory that is probably going to sell quicker, that's worth investing your time in. So usually at least once or twice a year, I go through and I start to purge items that have kind of just been sitting around that I just don't think are going to sell. But instead of just packing it all up and shipping it off to a thrift store or donating it, I like to sort of utilize these in ways that I could potentially make a little bit of profit, help out my reseller stats on my different platforms. So if you like content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I've been doing more and more of these strategy type videos to kind of just share with you what's working with my reseller business, and hopefully it helps you get some ideas of things that you might be able to do to maximize your own reseller business. Hit that like button too if you could. That really helps out the channel. It lets me know you like this kind of content and that I should make more of it. Let me know in the comments if you have tried any of these things, or if there's anything that you do that maybe I didn't mention. I would love to hear from you how you purge out your stale inventory and make room for new stuff. So the first couple I'm going to touch on just briefly, just because I would say that they're more commonly done or more commonly talked about. But in case you haven't tried these yet, I want to make sure that I mention them. Number one, and pretty much the first step for me, always, is delist and relist. So there comes a point on the platforms, Poshmark especially, and since Poshmark is really my number one platform as far as sales volume, it is important to delist and relist. Now, I don't think you should spend all kinds of time doing this. I think it's more important to list new things. But before I completely get rid of things, I will delist and relist. I use List Perfectly to manage my inventory, and so everything is stored in my List Perfectly catalog, and it's very easy for me. When I'm ready to delist and relist, I can do it quickly. I can select all the items that I want to delist and relist, and then I do it on all the platforms at once. I will delist. If it's listed on Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, I delist it from all. I relist it on all. I really think it's mostly important to relist on Poshmark, but it's so quick to do it using List Perfectly that I just do it on all the platforms at once, and then I relist accordingly. So not only are you refreshing that item, you're giving it a bump, you're refreshing the algorithm, or the algorithm is noticing that you're putting in new listings even though they're not really new, but because you've deleted and relisted, it's fresh inventory coming in as far as the algorithm is concerned. So that is always my first step. I don't typically start delisting and relisting until the stuff's been listed 90 days, and I'll do it usually at least once before I consider any of these other methods. Now, if you do want to try List Perfectly, I do have it linked down below. I have the Pro Plan Plus. It's money well spent, let me tell you. I manage all of my inventory in List Perfectly. All my listings cascade to all the platforms, and that way I can delist them when they sell, but also delist and relist when it's time to freshen them up. Also, when you're delisting and relisting, you can take the time if you want to. I don't do this a ton, but you could. Reevaluate your pricing, maybe rearrange your photos if you need to, update the description if you need to. I try to use the mentality of like, I'm going to do it right the first time, I guess, so I don't have to redo it when I'm delisting and relisting. I don't want to spend a ton of time on items that aren't selling, but if you wanted to kind of reevaluate your older items, that would be a great time to do it and kind of freshen them up. The next thing I do that I think is a great tool that's actually fairly newer on Poshmark is the My Shoppers tool. So if you go into Poshmark and you go to My Shoppers, you have a few options to draw in buyers or potential buyers to your closet. There's a bunch of different options here, but if I'm trying to move stale items, here's usually what I do first. Anybody that is a past buyer, I will add a comment to the bundle stating my deeply discounted sale. Again, I don't spend a ton of time doing this because these are stale items. I'm trying to move them out. I spend majority of my time on new listings, but past buyers, and I only do this maybe once or twice a year because I don't like being spammed all the time, so I kind of just do what I would want others to do to me, but you could do this as often as you want theoretically, but I typically run like a Black Friday sale, maybe a birthday sale, maybe like a end of season sale, like once or twice a year. I will add a comment to every past buyer. So the more you've been selling, the bigger your audience is going to be here. But even if you don't have a huge history with Poshmark, this still may benefit you. The most successful one I've had recently was my birthday sale. So I added a comment to the bundle saying, this weekend only, anything under $20 in my closet. If you bundle 3 or more items, you get 38% off because it's my 38th birthday. I made a ton of sales during that time. I don't want to say I gave stuff away, but it was a great way for me to clear out some stuff that's kind of been sitting for a while. Most of it I sold above cost, so I wasn't making as much profit as I would necessarily want to, but I was making space, which is equally important. Of course, too, on Poshmark, and I use Poshmark VA to do this regularly, participate in closet clear out, send offers to likers, make sure you keep discounting those items. And when I do a sale like this for My Shoppers, I make sure that everything I want to include in that sale is listed at the price point I have stated in my sale so that, there's no confusion of what's on sale and what isn't. Similarly, and actually I do this a lot more regularly because I feel like it's a lot less intrusive, but eBay, you can run sales and promotions right in your eBay store. All you have to do is declare what items you want to put on sale. You can set the time of your promotion. You can set the percentage off. And I just let those promotions run. So for example, I might filter this any items that are 120 days old or more, I'm going to put on sale for 25% off. And I'm going to let that run for the next 2 weeks. And so anybody who might have potentially been interested in those items is going to get a notification that it's on sale. Or anybody that finds the item going forward is going to see that it's on sale. So that's relatively successful in moving items as well, especially on eBay when there's not really a closet clear out type option on eBay where I'm constantly lowering the prices trying to get a bite. eBay, you kind of just set your price and it is what it is. You accept the offers or you send offers, but there's no price drop the way that there is on Poshmark and Mercari. So I do run sales pretty often on eBay. That's going to kind of maximize between My Shoppers and the eBay sale. That's going to kind of maximize if there is any profit left to be made on these items. That's the way I'm going to do it. But you've put the stuff on sale. You have tried the My Shoppers option. You've delisted and relisted and you're just done. You're like, okay, this is not selling. What do I do with this stuff? Before you dump it at Goodwill, there's a few other things you can try. Because at the end of the day, you still want to try to make money on this stuff. You don't want it to be a total loss. So one of the first things I do after I've decided I'm really done, I'm going to pull it down from the platforms. This one may surprise you. I send the item to eBay auction. Now, that might sound funny, but here's why. I will delist the item on all other platforms, and then I will send it to online auction on eBay for 99 cents starting for a 7-day auction. This is totally old school on eBay. And you're probably thinking why would you want to sell the item for 99 cents? Well, number one, I charge the buyer shipping. So truly they're going to pay a little more than 99 cents, obviously, because they're going to pay for shipping as well. But when you're talking about eBay, your seller stats are so very important. And if you are a newer seller and you're trying to get your stats up, you're trying to establish more feedback, or maybe some of your stats have slipped. Like for me, and I'm going to blame the post office here. We're having a huge problem with the USPS delivering packages on time. And so I get dinged for package shipping time sometimes, and those stay on your account for an entire year. And so when you're trying to stay under a certain percentage, you need to make more sales and have them delivered on time in order to make up for the ones that weren't. So when you sell those items, even if you sell it for 99 cents, you're going to get feedback from that item. It's going to count as an item sold. You're going to ship it real quick because now you're trying to get your stats up. You're trying to establish your numbers. And that really saves you a lot of money on the long run on eBay if you can get that top rated seller status. So I do find that it is worth it for me to purge items via 7-day listing on auction on eBay. I'm probably going to take a loss on the item. A lot of stuff really does sell for just 99 cents. But then once the auctions end, because it's only still listed on eBay, I can go through. I can either decide maybe I want to run it for another 7-day cycle, but usually I do it just once. And then the second time around, I will start pulling the stuff from my inventory and go to the next step, which the next step is one of two, depending on what kind of time I have. But typically next step number one is buy, sell, trade for some things. I guess it kind of depends on what you're selling, but I know me personally selling like clothing, shoes, accessories, I will pull some things and take them to my local buy, sell, trade store. That does take a little bit of a time investment. I have to put everything in a bag or a box. I have to go to the consignment store and sit there and wait for them to go through the items. They may or may not take it, but it's worth it for me to at least try to get a little bit of money for some of that stuff than to just toss it, right? I know that me personally, the closest one to me is Uptown Cheapskate, which is the one I use the most. They do give the option to like just donate your stuff if you don't want it back. I always take it back because I still have other options even still. If you really wanted that to be the end of the line, you could. They'll just take your unwanted stuff and dispose of it for you. I don't really know what they do with it, but you know, it's no longer your problem. So that's another option, but that depends on what you're selling. If you're not selling things that typically a buy, sell, trade store would be interested in purchasing, that might not be the best avenue for you. The next one, and actually this is maybe a little bit more common for me, or if I take it to buy, sell, trade first, the next step would be this, to print a ThreadUp label and send in a ThreadUp kit. So this is, again, kind of like the last stop before I'm going to just kind of toss things. Couple reasons I like using ThreadUp, even still, and if you've been reselling for a while, I know you know that there's been a lot of changes with ThreadUp, but here's the thing. If I'm sending them a kit with things that I was otherwise going to dispose of, donate, whatever, I'm not necessarily taking a loss if they don't accept it or if it doesn't sell. Now, I am only sending them things that are in sellable condition. Obviously, they're things that I would have sold myself. And they are only accepting certain brands. So if it's a brand that they don't accept, I'm not going to send it in the box. You can go on the ThreadUp sell page and there's a tab that shows you, that gives you the option to search by brand and you can see if it's an eligible or ineligible brand, whether or not they accept it. But I'm only sending them stuff that they accept. I'm only sending them sellable items. But at the end of the day, because I was going to donate it anyway, I don't care if I don't get it back. And also, I don't care how much it sells for. If it sells for a penny, it's more than what I would have got for it if I would have donated it or thrown it out. I also don't care if they list it and it doesn't sell. I'm not going to pay to reclaim it. So that's how I use ThreadUp primarily. I know ThreadUp used to be a really good way to like actually sell for profit, but I don't really send them things I don't want back. And so when I'm purging stale inventory, it's a great way for me to make a few extra dollars. And then I can either put it towards maybe ordering a rescue box. I like the DIY denim boxes they have. Or I can just cash out or buy something for myself, which I usually don't do. I don't usually shop for myself. But if I wanted to, I almost always have some kind of ThreadUp credit sitting there. So consider maybe printing off a ThreadUp kit. I have a ThreadUp link down below. If you're not already signed up, I think you get a $10 shopping credit if you make an account. It's free to ship You just have to use your own box. You print a label. I think they take $14.99 out of your kit. Like once it's all listed, they take $14.99 off the top. You don't pay upfront. But again, if it's stuff you were just sending in that you were going to get rid of, to me, it's totally worth it because there's a potential for a little bit of profit at the end. A couple of options if you're not sending to ThreadUp or for things that maybe ThreadUp does not accept. And this is like total end of the line. Number one, you could have a yard sale. It's very easy to sell clothing at yard sales, in my opinion, especially if you're asking, 25, 50 cents. And I'm talking like stuff you couldn't sell, stuff your buy sell trade store wouldn't take, and stuff that is not eligible to go to ThreadUp. Now, it takes a lot of time and energy to set up a yard sale. So maybe if you have a family member that's having one, or if you just generally like enjoy doing that, or maybe if your community is having one, then you just put some stuff out. You might make some money that way. I don't personally like having yard sales. I don't really like going to yard sales. That's not really my thing, but it is something you could try potentially before you donate or toss those things. And then the last thing I would say, sort of along the lines of a yard sale, is maybe lot it up by size and sell it for cheap or sell it by the bag on Facebook Marketplace. I've had some success doing that, maybe saying like, this entire garbage bag is full of women's size medium clothing. I'm selling it for $20 or whatever, maybe even less than that. And let people come. You might get resellers. You might just get people looking for cheap clothing. It's an option just to put it out there. That takes pretty minimal effort. You may have to meet up with people, so you have to kind of be okay with that too. But, if you're really trying to get rid of a quantity of stuff pretty cheap, you could try that as well. So that's everything I usually run through before I flat out donate or toss things. Part of being a reseller is trying to keep clothing out of landfills. And even things that you donate, especially if you're not able to sell it yourself, there's a good chance it's going to ultimately end up in the landfill. So if you really want to try to maximize your profits and then at the end of the day, keep the clothing out of landfills, there's just some things to think about, ways that you could potentially make some profit on your stale inventory. Let me know in the comments. Like I said, I probably missed something. There's probably some things that you all do to help yourself reduce your inventory that I may not have thought of, that I may not have mentioned, that I may not have tried. So let me know down below if you've done any of these things or if there's anything you do that I did not mention. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm really, really excited to share with you more strategy content. So I would love to have you around in a future video. Hit that like button on the way out if you're still here. That certainly helps out the channel a lot. And that is it for today, friends. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.